Coming up after this next song, my special guest today, singer, songwriter, musician, Mr. Paul Dwyer. Paul worked for many years with my dear late friend and his dear late friend, Andy Clayburn. And I thought it'd be a nice touch to bring Paul on today to a song by Andy. This is Andy Clayburn, just hanging out with my friends.
Well, I don't mind too much if I miss the plane. I don't have a master plan to fry my brain. Today is cancelled, tomorrow I don't know. It all depends. I'm just hanging out with some of my friends. And I ain't contemplating much at all, not much at all. Don't be offended if I don't answer your telephone call. I need some time, sweet relief. To hell with the trends. I'm just hanging out with some of my friends. All kinds of weather, you gotta take the smooth or with the rough. Some cheap red wine will do just fine. You're all mine in the summertime. I got no plans, I got no worries, no itches I can't reach. Hanging out with my friends down on the beach. So let it rain, cats and dogs, let it shine. Won't you let it shine? You only live once, so do it right. Get in some quality time. Today is cancelled, tomorrow I don't know. It all depends. I'm just hanging out with some of my friends. All right, John. Take the smooth with the rough, with the rough. Some cheap red wine will do just fine. You're all mine in the summertime. I got no plans, I got no worries, no itches I can't reach. Hanging out with my friends down on the beach. So I don't mind too much if I miss the plane. It's already gone, and I don't have a master plan to fry my brain. It's already fried. I got a big, wide, open road ahead, no happy bells, and I'm just hanging out. We're just hanging out. I'm just hanging out with some of my friends, yeah.
The late, great Mr. Andy Clayburn. My special guest today is joining us all the way from Istanbul in Turkey, a fine singer, songwriter, guitarist who studied at the Royal Northern College of Music in Manchester, England. It's my pleasure to welcome to the show Mr. Paul Dwyer. How are you, Paul?
All right, kid. How you doing?
Good. How's it in Istanbul there?
Oh, it's we're all on lockdown here just now, so
I heard it's only just happened, right, as well.
Yeah, we're all on lockdown, but fortunately the weather's great, and we've got a nice terrace, so you know it's nice spending some quality time with the family.
Good.
But I'm okay. I mean, I have permission to get out, so I get out to the studio as much as I can. You know, try and keep some sanity.
I know.
Otherwise, I go mad in the house all the time. So it's nice. It's nice to get to the studio and do some work.
Well, like myself, Paul, you were born in Liverpool, right? Which part?
Exactly.
Which part of Liverpool?
Born in Toxteth, in a place called just off a place called Lodge Lane. Very close, actually, very close to Sefton Park.
I know Lodge Lane. Do you know what? I used to sing in a bar called the Rob Roy. My dad's mate had it when I was younger. Roy. Yeah, the Rob Roy in Lodge Lane. Yeah, so that was a
Scotsman. That is the Rob Roy.
Yeah, it was a great apprenticeship. Yeah. Put it that way, you know. Did you get into music from an early age, Paul?
I did indeed, Joe. Yeah, I mean, my dad. I mean, as you know, in those days, most of the lads in the pub, I mean, somebody would play a guitar. You know what I mean? So they used to get together. My dad and a few of his friends, and you know, they would have jam sessions in the pub and whatever. So eventually, that kind of rubbed off on me, I suppose. You know, and so when I was about, I don't know, about 11 or something, 9, 10, 11, round about that age, I used to sit there with a Monopoly board when my dad was playing the guitar. You know, and I would pretend I was playing, and eventually said to him, "Come on, I'll show you a few chords." So I think it was about, I don't know, about 12 when I played my first chord, and then I got into the guitar that way, and started with electric, and then a friend of Dad's who was playing in the local club, he was the guitarist in the social club band, very good guitarist, and he said to me, Dad, you know, he said, you know, I would advise Paul to get some classical training. You should, you know, rather than get him. I was due for that Christmas to get a Gibson Les Paul copy for me Christmas, for my 13th and Christmas present all in one. And instead of getting that, I got a classical guitar to start doing to get some good background and good technique. And I never looked back after that. Really, I just stayed with the classical, and that was it. And that's what got me down to Manchester, and that's how I met Andy. You know, in the Royal Northern.
Yeah, but you grew up in Scotland, right? I know you were born in Liverpool.
Yeah. No, I was very young when I left. I was basically I hadn't even started school. I was about 2.5 when I left.
You sound more Scouse than me.
No, I don't know. And again, it's who I'm talking to. I mean, I can't speak like that when I'm here. You know, most of the time I'm speaking Turkish anyway. But if I speak English with a Scouse accent, then I mean, they just don't understand me. You know. So yeah. So it's toned down a little bit, I must admit. Sometimes the old Scottish twang comes out now and again if I've had a few whiskies.
So was that the Royal Northern College of Music? That's where you met Andy?
That is indeed, yeah. 1982, I went down to study there and study classical guitar. And Andy was in his 3rd year at the time. And so there weren't very many guitarists in the college, actually. It was, you know, one of the particular reasons why I chose that college was because the principal teacher, or there's only one teacher there, that was Gordon Krosky, an incredible teacher. But the other great thing was John Williams. I don't know if you've ever heard of a guy called John Williams.
John Williams, he did the Cavatina, which became a hit when it was used as the guitar piece in The Deer Hunter, right?
He played that, but I mean, he was very famous in the 70s for a group called Sky. In the 70s, back there was a band called Sky, and they were doing like he was one of the first guitarists actually that kind of brought the classical guitar into the pop field, you know. So and I mean, they were actually doing songs that, you know, they were appearing on Top of the Pops, if you remember that. You know, at the time. Yeah. So, I mean, they were bringing classical music and playing things like, you know, the toccata or things like this, but doing it in a rock fashion. And he was playing the classical guitar. He was probably our greatest idol because he was a fantastic classical guitarist, and B, he was bringing it more into a commercial kind of a domestic field, the classical guitar, and it was him that got us into he was promoting guitars called Takaminis at the time. And so he got us in touch with the guys, and we bought our first Takaminis from the best wishes of John Williams, and and he got us into that. So that's how we started playing. We had to play classical guitars. We trained, both Andy and I. We preferred to play classical guitars, so we got these electroacoustic Takaminis, and that's how we started kind of playing in clubs and all that kind of stuff, because we could at least jack up our classical guitars,
Yeah. Well, when you joined there, when you say Andy was in his 3rd year,
Mhm.
Was that like your first year, and he was already there?
Yeah, yeah. Andy was 2 years older than me, so he was two
Right, so
years
he was.
ahead in university.
Okay.
So he started. Yeah, he started in 1980, and so he was going into his third year when I was just starting. But he stayed on and did an extra. I suppose like a master course, which kept him on for another year anyway.
Yeah.
So I mean, and after the first year anyway, we because we hit off like a house on fire, we basically moved in.
Yeah.
We all moved into this apartment in a place called Whalley Range in Manchester, which is now renowned for the drug scene. Nothing to do with us, but so we all lived basically in the same house, and we just hit it off, and we never separated after that. We just became musical buddies, and that was it.
So you just started gigging together in the UK?
That was it. We started writing songs, and we're still at college. We set up a band called the Strollers, and
well, that was his catchphrase, wasn't it? Stroll on.
Yeah, stroll on. Yeah,
Stroll
exactly. On. So we called the band the Strollers, and we were playing, all kinds of 60s stuff and Beatles and Stones and all that kind, and some of our own songs. But we started writing and recording our own stuff, and recorded it in the communal toilets, the bathrooms, because it was a great acoustic, So, and then of course it was no MP3s and digital recording systems. It was just a little cassette, and you got to press the play and the record together, and then go for it basically. So just but it was a nice sound, and at least it sounded better in the bathroom. But that got us our first record deal, in 1983. Basically just doing those songs in the toilet in the halls of residence where we stayed. We signed our first deal in '83 from 4 or 5 songs that we recorded.
And that was in the UK? That was in the UK?
In the UK, we signed with a subsidiary company called Spellbound Records, who were they were being released. They were actually a subsidiary of Columbia, CBS at the time. But I mean, nothing happened. You know what I mean? We did some demos and things like that, but it kind of all faded out. Before we really got off anywhere. But it was a good experience. We did spend some good quality time in studios and stuff like that. But and then we just said, sod this, and then we decided to just hit the clubs more, and we were doing all the working men's clubs, and anywhere where we could get a gig, basically anywhere at all. We even played we were playing in pubs down in Sunderland, in the Sunderland Docks. And we had, they were called these 10-day stints, and we would do like 10 gigs over the space of 7 or 8 days,
Yeah.
So in other words, you'd be playing Friday afternoon, Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon, and then Monday, Tuesday, right the way through in clubs and whatever. And on Saturday afternoon, we were playing in a club, in a pub full of men, and we thought, what's going on here? And then we went in the back room to get changed, and there was a stripper in there getting ready. And we thought, all right, well, this is okay. I mean, so we had to go on before the stripper. So, that was quite funny. That was all right going on before the stripper. When she went off for a break, we had to go back on again.
Follow that.
Imagine the encore we got, So it's all water under the bridge now, mate. But it's great experience, You can't beat it. You can't beat that kind of experience,
You can't. I mean, I did it myself to clubs and pubs for years. It's the best training ground ever. It's.
You start to get thick-skinned in those kind of places, I
mean, I know you've done a lot more with Andy, you know him a lot longer. I was blessed to know him as a friend for 14 years, spent some great time with him in New York, and he's told me so many stories, some great stories, but Andy had a heart of gold. One example I like to use is he could never do enough for anyone. He was everybody's friend, and and fantastic musician, songwriter, singer, but he never ever got above himself, and I knew him for 14 years. But I always like to use this as an example. The many times I've been to New York, at one time I was on the cruise ships, and the ship went into dry dock. Mm-hmm. So I called Andy, I said, I'm coming over to New York, because I'm not going to stay on the ship for 3 weeks while it's, they pull it out the water, there's mud coming out the showers, and there's no way. So I signed off, and I spent 17 nights in New York hanging out with Andy. And,
quite an experience that must have been, I tell you.
It was an experience. We had some great times, and he had so many gigs. Virtually every night I was at his gig. He had so many gigs. So a few years later, I wrote a song about it called Manhattan and Me, and mentioned Andy in the song. And I went back to New York to do a music video for the song. It was a local TV show called New York Rocks TV. So we filmed it, and I called Andy and I said, I'd love you to be in, be in the video, because your name's mentioned in it about hanging out on Bleecker Street, part of the lyrics, hanging out with Andrew on Bleecker Street. And, he had a gig in Queens that night, and it was freezing cold November. He come all the way down to the Red Lion, Bleecker Street. There was a rock band ready to go on. Everyone knew Andy in the Red Lion. He said, listen, boys, we'll be about 10 minutes. Just give us about 10 minutes. So we put the track on in the pub and on stage. And Andy said, I don't know the chords. What key is it in D? I said, just play whatever, because the music's playing. And we just... Right. And he joined me. And that was before his gig. He'd come all the way down to do that for me.
Right. Oh, no, he was anything that he could do to help,
Yeah. And then he went to his gig. Yeah, he come down and,
That's great. I mean, I only spent, I was once in New York. Well, we went together. That was back in 95 when we actually went together to New York, That was just after we finished. We signed with Sony Music in Germany. We were signed with them for 2 years. We were supposed to do a 4-album deal, but anyway, we did 2, and then we got out the deal, and then we went to New York in 95. And that's the experience I had there. We spent 8 months playing around. Of course, it was slow at first, but eventually we started getting more gigs,
Yeah.
And in Bleecker Street and the Red Lion and all those kind of places. And so that's also a great learning tool, playing the scene of New York, man. It's a tough game.
It is a great experience, though. I've done the bitter end a number of times, just doing, and it is a great experience. So when did you actually move to Istanbul? Because Andy went to Istanbul with you, right?
We were basically doing gigs. Like I say, after I graduated in '86, and Andy graduated the year before me, because he did like a master as well. But so we spent basically 2 years traveling all over the UK, doing these, what you call the 10-day stints. And so we were 10 days in Sunderland, 10 days in Liverpool, and 10 days in Glasgow, whatever. Yep. And then, we actually, we met this kind of an agent in Manchester when we were busking down there. We were busking, and he threw his card in the hat. Andy he always had his hat, so he had his hat on the floor, like hoping to get money. And this fella threw his card in. And he said, give me a call sometime. And then when we phoned this fella up, he turned out to be like a kind of a music agent, and he was sending groups around to Abu Dhabi and all kinds of places. And he said, would you like to go off and work for the Hilton, the Hilton chain? And we said, oh, sounds great. Better than Leith Docks, you know what I mean? So that was it. So we went to Abu Dhabi the first time. In 85 or 84 or sometime. 85 we went to Nicosia in Cyprus, and then in 88 just finishing this 2-year tour that we were doing, and absolutely sick of it. We were in a caravan in Sunderland, and it was bucketing down with rain, and we got this message to call up the agent, and he said, do you want to go to Istanbul in 2 weeks? And we said, you got to be kidding, man. We was like living in a caravan in Sunderland, and it was raining, and we just finished. I think that was probably the day we done the gig in the strippers club or something like that, and we had to call him up, and then he said, you're right, you're off to Istanbul. And we said, you're bloody right we are, mate. When are we going? So that was it. And that was 88, and we came together initially for 3 months, and then our contract was extended to 4 months, and then we basically wanted to come over and just earn a bit of money and go back and do a demo in Manchester. Get a bit of a few bob in our pockets, and then but we discovered that the studios here were okay. They weren't obviously, they weren't as, maybe not as advanced as the technology we had in the UK going back to 88, but Fostex and a reasonable studio. So we just demoed all the stuff here. It was like a tenth of the price that was going to cost us in the UK. So, and then one thing led to another. Then we got offered gigs here. We got offered a session down in the south of Turkey. People said, you got to go down and see the south. So we went down there, and it was like we shouldn't be playing in these massive resorts, beautiful resorts on the south coast of Turkey. And we were living in 5-star hotels and no expenses. We were just gigging every night, playing on the beach, bonfire nights, or like campfire nights, or Oh man! So I mean, of course we said, "Oh, this is great." This, and then back in the winter again, we'd have offers in Istanbul. So we were back up to Istanbul again, and then with all intentions of coming back to the UK. So we just bounced up and down. In the summer we were hitting to the south, going down to the coast.
Yeah.
In the winter we were playing all the clubs in Istanbul and living here. So and I met my wife here. I met my wife actually after the first week.
Yeah.
So that's probably another reason why I wanted to stay here.
Yeah. Is this where you formed EndiPol? Because it's Turkish for Andy and Paul, right?
The funny thing is that the Turkish people gave us that name actually, because every time we went into a hotel or anywhere, and the receptionist would say, "What's your name?" and he would say, "Andy," and he would write it as in Turkish. They write Andy as ENDI, which is Endi, and we would pronounce it as Endi. Okay. And of course, so they'd write his name as Endi, and they'd say, "What's your name?" And I would say Paul. And they always write my name P-O-L, Paul,
Okay.
So we just got sick of trying to, and no, it's not P-O-L, it's P-A-U-L, and it's not E-N-D-I, it's A-N. And, we just got sick of every time. And we just said, okay, look, EndiPol, just keep it like that. And so, because everybody called us EndiPol, and that was it. And so that was our group. We decided to call our name EndiPol. And everybody, even when people see me today, people still say to me, look, EndiPol. And really? I say, no, I'm Paul. And Andy's up there having a gig in the sky, But people still classify us as EndiPol, whether I'm alone or together. It's just stuck with it. Yeah. And it was the Turkish people that gave us that name. So thanks to them.
Well, you started releasing music in Turkish, you and Andy. How long did it take you to learn the Turkish language?
God, I don't, we started off. We actually went to a teacher. 3 times, and we had 3 lessons for half an hour each, and that was about it. So but because we were working in Turkish, our contract was finished in the Hilton then. So we decided to. We got other offers, and we were playing in a club that it was all Turkish people. So we had to learn the language, So and so learning the language just by picking it up, all the bad things first. Of course, that's the first thing you learn. But we just picked it up by ear, and then of course listening to the Turkish music, and we were quite. I must admit, we were very influenced by the Turkish music, and especially the instruments. Things like saz, bağlama, and the different kind of wind instruments and percussive instruments that they used. So we started using those instruments in our own songs. So we were writing in English, and then we say, okay, let's try these songs in Turkish. So we try and translate it into Turkish, and then we just kind of went from there, So and it's just constantly, because we had to constantly use the language every day. Yeah. It was good practice for us, and constantly listening to Turkish music, and we were also producing a lot of Turkish music. Then we were working with some famous Turkish artists here who wanted us to arrange and produce for them because of the Western kind of background and the musical background that we had. So it was using that to produce and arrange Turkish music. So we got used to the sound and everything in the studios, and then we just incorporated that into our own style, into our own music.
Well, let's play a song. We're going to play Istanbul.
Oh, wow. That was the first one we wrote when we got here.
Tuttum sana verdim sözü, aklımda uyanır bugün, içimde hala o hüzün. Kırık kaldırımlar üstünde koş Koşuşan insanlar sonsuzluğa uzansam bile yıldızlar değse elime bir hilal görsem hatırlarım hep seni İstanbul. Sesi boğaz içinden bir nefes eski dolmuşlar korna sesleri bu hayat dolu sahneyi sonsuzluğa uzansam bile yıldızlar değse hatırlarım hep seni İstanbul. Avrupa ve Asya birleşmiş adeta dönmemi hep istemiştim. İstanbul geldim ben sonsuzluğa uzansam bile yıldızlar değse elime bir hilal görsem hatırlarım hep seni İstanbul.
Beautiful song, Paul.
I mean, when we first wrote it, we wrote it in English, actually, that song, and I was sitting there playing the guitar, and Andy was playing that's instrument. The lead instrument there is called a bağlama or a saz, the Turkish saz.
Is that the one that looks a bit like a mandolin to look at?
Exactly, that's the one, yes. Like I said, we were working with some really big names in Turkey, like producing albums and stuff, and one of the guys, a guy called Zülfü Livaneli, we were producing an album, and he was playing exactly the same saz. It's called a short-necked saz because they're all different sizes as well. You have some that you have a little mandolin shape, and you have something about the size of a guitar. Then you have a bass one, So they come in different in colors in the sound. I mean, and we decided to get some made for ourselves, and we did. So from one of the big luthiers here who produced the sazes for us, and we started learning that as well. I mean, Andy was playing. When we used to play this on stage, for example, Andy would play that instrument, the saz. I would play the guitar, and he would play the saz. So that's how we got into that. And then like I say, we started writing most of our songs. Of course, we were writing them in English, and then we. For example, that one there was basically almost directly translated from English into Turkish, So then, Andy was the one actually for his lyrics. I mean, he would actually sit down and write songs in scratch from Turkish, So, I mean, he was, although his Turkish wasn't quite as good as mine, he was just more creative that way. And, he was translating songs we did a TV show here for a few years, and he translated Scarborough Fair, are you going to Scarborough Fair? And he translated that into Turkish, wow. And we sang that, and it sounded great, actually, I mean, he just did it himself, sat there and did it in Turkish, and I was quite shocked, but that was Andy Clayburn for you, full of tricks.
He was so dedicated, wasn't he? And so creative. Yeah, I mean, your voices really complement each other in that song. It's very haunting. And do you know what? There's a friend of mine who loves that song here. My driver, who drives me to my gigs, normally drives me home from my gigs late at night. He's from Istanbul. His name's Muslim Aldi. Yeah, I met him a few years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago now. I just happened to order Uber, and now I've kept him as my driver now. And he's my brother. I introduced him to your music, Andy's music, and I remember him watching the TV show, and he was translating to me what he was saying when it was you and Tanya. I think it was Andy's daughter, and you went out on the boat.
That's right. Yeah. We were. Andy. We spent a lot of time in Istanbul. So
yeah.
We and Tanya wanted also to. Basically, his ashes went everywhere. His ashes are all in Scotland, in New York, and we've spread them in Istanbul, and we went out into the Bosphorus. And that song that you just heard, actually, it's all about Istanbul, and it's all about the Bosphorus and the Asian and the European continent, and the cobbled streets and the history, the architecture. And especially the Bosphorus, because we actually sing quite a bit about the Bosphorus in that song, and we talk about the bridge, that joins those two continents together, and so we decided to spread some of his ashes. The Bosphorus.
I know his mum Christine spread some in Yorkshire as well, I think.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
Some down by the River Dwarf. Andy's got a great album.
I have that album. I've got that album.
The River Dwarf. Where did that come from? The River Wharf.
The River Wharf. Yeah. Yeah.
It's got a funny name like that. So they spread his ashes. Hey, he's everywhere, man. I've still got his bloody cases in my house. He's everywhere he went. He left cases. I'm not surprised you haven't got one in yours, mate. You know what I mean? A case with some letters and music and hats and something in there. It's like a little box of magic tricks. That we'd leave behind in everybody's house. I guess because he always thought he was going to be going back there again, and it was an excuse for him to come and gate crash your house. You know what I mean?
Travel everywhere, didn't he? Yeah. Do you know what? I was so honoured. Tanya asked me to sing at his memorial in New York. It was just 2 years ago now. It was the end of April. I flew over there about 3 or 4 nights, I think, and it was an absolute honour because they're fantastic New York musicians. He knew so many people that were there to share the same stage with some of them guys, and it was cool that she asked all the musicians to learn his songs. It wasn't a night of covers, so we were all on a group Dropbox thing, so nobody clashed and did the same song. It was so organised. Yeah,
right.
And I was on second. Yeah, I went on second, and I sang the Manhattan and Me song, which was mine. I told you we did the music video together. But one of my favourite songs of Andy's was On Your Side. I used to always ask him to play that for me. Is there a big broken dream in your pocket? Tell me the truth. Beautiful song. So I played that on the night,
Right. But, I saw that. I mean, I have all the videos here from Andy's, from the, because we did one here in Turkey as well, I mean, we did one in the UK, they did one here, we did one in Germany, and we organised one here in Turkey, so
I think there was one in Belgium as well, I think.
Yes, we did one in Belgium as well. In fact, at the funeral, it was a bit overpowering for me that because I had to do all the speeches and stuff like that. I did sing in the church. That was when I was sitting next to Andy's ashes, and I remember saying that, hey dude, we've been on many stages, but this is a classic. This one, you know what I mean? And we're sitting there together on the stage. This is the hardest gig I've ever had. I tell you that now.
Yeah, I know.
No. I mean, the guys. Everybody here still talks about. His music lives on, and his great spirit and great nature and wonderful heart. He touched a lot of people, and I knew Andy since '82, basically. Since 1982 when we met, we were two little teenage. I was in my teens when I met. Anyway, we grew up together. Traveled the world together. Great. I'm also very, very, very privileged to have been. A part of his life, and to have had him in my life, incredible guy.
Let's play another song. This is you and Andy again. This is I Will Wait For You.
Baby, I will wait for you. I will wait for you. want. You don't know what to do. I understand you're a woman. Everything you touch turns blue. You don't care about tomorrow. You never think about today. I understand you're a woman. Remember what I have to say. Baby, I will wait for you. Baby, I will wait for you. Maybe we can make the wind blow. Maybe we can touch the sky. You're my dream, you're my woman. And that's the reason why. Baby, I will wait for you. Baby, I will wait for you. Don't you know that, baby, I will wait for you. Come on, won't you tell me what else can I do? 'Cause baby, you know I gave my love to you. I will wait for you. You're my dream, you're my woman. And that's the reason why. Baby, I will wait for you. I will be right here waiting. Baby, I will wait for you. There's no need to. Don't you know that, baby? I will wait for you. When you need the shoulder, baby. Baby, I will wait for you. I'll still be waiting. Don't you know that, baby? I will wait for you.
I will wait for you. That's got a
I
great.
will.
That's got a great hook. That chorus, Paul. When did you release that?
We did that in '92 when we
92.
signed. We signed with Sony Music, and we actually did 2 albums with Sony Music. We signed with them just at the end of the 90, well, beginning of '91, kind of. We did the first album in '91, and then that was an album called Partners in Crime.
Right.
And then we did the second album with that was the first track actually. Although it was the first track of the album in '92, we did the album was called The Feeling of Life, but we never released it as a single. You know, it was we had, I think that the first single from that album was a song called "Don't Fade Away." It was called actually. It was the first single from that.
I've actually got that. I'm going to play that today, actually, on the show.
Yeah, well, there you
Yeah.
go. That was our first single, yeah. And then another one, the hit single that we got from in fact, I think we're going to play that later as well. There's a song called "Without You" was the first kind of radio hit that we had in Germany when it went into the top 10.
Oh.
I mean, we had like, it was great. I mean, and that song, like I say, although it wasn't released, it was the first song of the album. So
Yeah.
I will wait for you. Yeah, anyway, there's a good story about that, but I'm hoping it might turn out and we'll be able to celebrate or talk about it on a future program, Joe.
Okay. I hope so too, mate, yeah. Paul, you've made Istanbul your home now. For how many years have you been in Istanbul?
Goodness me, man. 33.
Wow. So you must have been there 2005 when Liverpool won the Champions League in that unbelievable
I
final.
was at the game, mate.
Did you go to the game?
I was at the game, of course.
What a game. I can only imagine what the city was like that night.
And I'll tell you a funny story about that, because I mean, as you know, they were 3-0 down in the first half, and we could see a lot of the Scousers were leaving. They were leaving the stadium in tears. Yeah. And then anyway, so we know what happened. And at the end of the game, there was the player, I think the French guy, with the Cecil was his name.
Cece, yeah.
Cece, that's the one, yeah.
Cece, yeah.
I was like the second row from the pitch, I was right down on the front, and after they won and they were running around, and he took his shirt off, okay, and he threw his shirt and it landed on my head.
Wow, really?
I know, and I should have, but of course, when this shirt came over, imagine the amount of people who jumped on me. Yeah. And the guy next door grabbed the shirt and stuffed it down his pants, like in a flash. It was unbelievable. He grabbed the shirt, stuffed it down his pants, and everybody was standing looking around. Where's the bloody shirt gone? That must be worth a fortune, that shirt, I tell you what.
Yeah.
But it was an incredible game. And of course, on the way back was even funnier, because we got back, and on all the pubs and all the clubs, everywhere was swinging. All the streets were full, absolutely full of mad Scousers and a lot of Turkish people. They were all out to help to celebrate with them, Yeah. What a night, man. Great event, that. I'll never forget that.
I watched it in the Bahamas. I was in a pub called A Drop Off. There's a Yorkshire couple called Bobby and Val. I was on the ships at the time, and I watched every game in that pub, even the quarterfinals, the semi-finals,
Right.
But I've been, when I was on the ships, I spent a lot of time in Istanbul myself, 20 years ago.
Goodness
we used to dock now. We used to go to Istanbul, great city. Very, it's such an educational city. It's got so much where you are. We went to Bodrum, Marmaris, Antalya, Kuşadası.
Yeah. Oh, you've been around.
Yeah. So I've been a lot of places. And Andy loved Turkey. He used to talk about Turkey all the time.
Oh, he was. He used to come here. Even when he was living in the States, every summer. Oh, without a question of a doubt, he'd come over every summer. And he would do a minimum of a month of just mad gigs. When I say mad gigs, he was only playing an hour and a half at night, but he would travel the whole coast of Turkey. He would be 2 days here, and then he'd drive about 3 or 4 hours, and then 2 days there, and then he'd drive another 3 or 4. And he was, so to go from A to Z was you're talking about a 12-hour journey. Yeah. But he would do it, he would do it in stages. So he'd move on to the next spot and do 2 gigs there, and then he'd move, and he would just do that for the whole month. And so he would just go round and round, just doing the circuit, playing in about 6 or 7 different clubs. And it was, we used to play. We played in those clubs for years together, But he would never miss that. He'd spend a few days in Istanbul. We'd have a session in Istanbul, and then he'd be off, and he'd be off doing his gigs in Bodrum and Marmaris and Fethiye and Antalya and rent his car, and off he was. He was off.
He was so passionate about playing and doing gigs. He really, really was, Same in New York. He'd go everywhere. I remember being in Harlem with him one night. He said, "It's called the Ellington. Come up." I'd never been to Harlem before, but we had a great night. Paul, you're going to play something live for us today?
I would love to, yeah.
Okay.
I'd love to, Joe. Yeah, in fact,
there's one other person on the show, right? This is show number 17, I think. Yeah, I've only had one person play live before, and it was Muhammad Ali's bodyguard. Played a bit of piano for me.
Whose bodyguard?
Muhammad Ali's bodyguard, Jimmy Santon. He was on the show.
I wouldn't have thought he would have needed a bodyguard.
I know, but he's also a musician.
I hope the sound comes across okay through this phone system. Is the guitar coming through there?
That's fine. Yeah. What are you going to play for us?
Okay, this is a song. Actually, I wrote this song quite recently. So, but Andy was alive at the time, so he heard it, and he put a few of his little touches in there, of course,
Oh, great.
But initially, I wrote it for my wife. But anyway, here we go. It's called "Help Me Make It Through the Night." As the light reveals the day, traces of your perfume begin to fade away. A shattered picture on the floor, with a sadness in your eyes I've seen before. And I know what's on your mind, I can read between the lines. When you ask yourself, we've been down this road before, feeling washed upon the shore. And I know that soon the tide is gonna change. So baby, please could you hold me tonight? 'Cause you turn all my darkness to light. Take my hand, give me strength, and be my guide. 'Cause I need you right here by my side, to help me make it through the night. As the light begins to fade and it draws an end to one more masquerade, but it's burning me inside. Everything we've had just can't be pushed aside. And I know what's on your mind, I can read between the lines. When you ask yourself, we've been down this road before, feeling washed upon the shore. And I know that soon the tide is gonna change. So baby, please could you hold me tonight? 'Cause you turn all my darkness to light. Well, take my hand, give me strength, and be my guide. 'Cause I need you right here by my side. Whoa, whoa, baby, please could you hold me tonight? 'Cause you turn all my darkness to light. Take my hand, give me strength, be my guide. 'Cause I need you right here by my side, to help me make it through the night. To help me make it through the night. To help me make it through the night. To help me make it through the night.
Beautiful, mate. Beautiful. Paul Dwyer live, playing live. Have you released that song?
The sound came through okay.
Come through fine, yeah. Have you released that song?
No, I haven't actually.
You haven't recorded it yet? No.
Oh, I've recorded it, but,
Yeah,
I haven't released it yet. No. I mean, I've got a lot of, I've got my own YouTube thing. YouTube Paul Dwyer Music is my YouTube thing. But funnily enough, most of the stuff I've done on that is it's a lot of Turkish music, you know. But I've got some of my own original songs on there. But you know, people keep saying to me, "What, you know, you need to get your stuff out on, you know, other platforms and Spotify, things like that." But I've recorded that song, but no, I haven't released it yet. So hopefully sometime I'll get it out there.
Well, what's the? I was going to ask you, how can people find your music? You know, download it and stuff. I mean, I was talking to a musical friend of mine a couple of weeks ago. You know, I'm back playing live gigs again now. We had the lockdown here. I've been back since October, and I've noticed the decline in CD sales at gigs, because now some people, you know, haven't even got CD players in the car anymore.
Exactly.
You get a new car, there's no CD player in it. Everyone's just on the Spotify thing and the Amazon Music, whatever. And it's so hard for artists.
Yeah, I mean, Andy was great that way, you know, because he always had his stuff available online, and all the, you know, series of albums that he put out. Yeah. And I was always very late with that kind of stuff. I mean, all the YouTube stuff, I plow all my energy into that, you know. Yeah. You know, I mean, I do have a lot of people saying, get your stuff out on Spotify and whatever it is like that. I've actually got a Spotify account, but it was the company that I worked with here in Turkey, and so the songs on there are all Turkish songs. So anybody punching into Paul Dwyer on Spotify, you're gonna get bombarded with Turkish songs. So. No, but it's something I do need to work on and get your stuff out there a bit more. But otherwise, yeah, I think I did an acoustic version of that on YouTube. There is a video of me doing an acoustic version, basically the way I've just played it there. But well,
let's play the song we talked about before. You were talking about the song "Don't Fade Away."
Okay, yeah,
let's play that one.
That was the first radio hit from the second album. That was the release song from the second album, '92. Don't Fade Away.
That's you and Andy, right?
It's me and Andy. It is indeed, yeah.
Let's hear it.
Don't fade away. Today without a reason. Summer was the season. I can hear you
Another great track.
That was actually the Graduates who were called there.
The
Can you believe
Graduates.
that?
Oh, okay. You call the Graduates there.
Yeah, we went through that many names. We were called EndiPol in Turkey, and then when we did the stuff in Germany and with Sony Music, we were called the Graduates.
So all the time
We were so fond of the Beatles and Simon and Garfunkel and all that kind of stuff. So the great movie, The Graduate. And also because we both graduated from the same place, we called ourselves the Graduates.
Oh, cool. Was you with him all the time in Germany? Because he spoke to me a lot of times about stuff he did in Germany. But you went to Germany.
Yeah, I mean, well, all the stuff in the 90s. I mean, Andy and I only kind of started spending time apart towards. Well, it was around about 2000 actually. After 2000, when Andy, then he because we spent, as I say, in 95 we were in New York, just for a few months, and then we were back in Turkey. So up until 2000, 2001, before he kind of decided to go back to New York and try and make a career out there. We were together all the time. So whether we were Germany, Turkey, everywhere. So and he spoke incredible German as well. I mean, his German was fantastic, and also because of a lot of the clubs we played in the south of Turkey, we were playing in mostly German clubs, so all the guests were German. Yeah. So I was picking it up, Wow. But man of many languages: Spanish, French, German, Turkish.
Yeah, so talented. It's great to hear his voice again there, And as I say, your voices together really complement each other. I love the Istanbul song, I really do. And we play that in the car all the time. I told you my driver, he has it on all the time in the car. Paul, you've also had your own TV and radio shows in Turkey, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we started off together. Well, actually, when we did the second album with Andy together, in our Turkish album,
Yeah.
The first album was called. On Turkish, it's called Belki. Belki means possibly, or Belki yes, Belki no, which means could be yes or it could be no. Okay. So that was the name of the first album. And the second album we did was Ya Bugün Ya da Yarın, which means either today or tomorrow. So, and that was the name of the second album. And when we were touring and doing all the TV stuff, for the album, which we released in 2009. So in 2010, we got an offer from a TV station to do our own TV show, just to try and cut it short. And so we said, okay, let's do it. We initially agreed on 13 episodes with it was a big national channel here in Turkey. And so it was like a 3-month thing, 13 shows, traveling around Turkey, going to visit the different musicians and the different artists, and basically to talk about the culture and the music of Turkey, Yeah. And we started off in 2010, and with Andy we did the first 13 shows together. And then Andy, I said, bloody hell, man, I've got to get back to New York. My wife's there, all the guys are there. I'm missing all the guys, So he overextended his stay in Istanbul. So we filmed like the first 10 or 12 shows, and then he took off. And then the TV stations, it was so successful that they wanted to keep it going, So I said, well, bloody hell, Andy's buggered off back to New York, So I had to carry on by myself. But it was such a popular show that it went on for nearly 4 years, So we started off with 3 months and ended with 13 episodes, and it went to over 120 episodes. And basically, I traveled all around Turkey, and I was producing and presenting the show in Turkish, and just meeting all the local musicians, the local arts and groups, the cultural dance groups. And it was, for me, it was an incredible experience to go all around Turkey and meeting musicians and just jamming with them, and just I had a great time.
Well, talk us through the last song. I definitely want to make sure we get this last song in today, because it's Without You. You said that was your first. That was first.
Without You's from the first. Now it's funny because the actual album version that we did is a very slow. It's a very slow arrangement, And Andy, I remember Andy sitting for hours and hours, like programming the drums for it, And it was a song that I wrote about my dad because he spent his childhood down in the mines, in the pits when he was a young man in Liverpool. And so I wrote the song about him. And Andy he basically programmed all the drums. So we've got like clangings and so it sounded like metal working and things like that. He really worked on it. But then we decided to do a radio version. So we kept the same vocals, kept everything the same, but we just used like a country snare, like a shuffle snare on it. Yep. And it was the first hit song from that album, you know. And the guys would always, our producers would always say, no, we don't want to do this song. You know, we'll do this. They'd written a couple of songs on the album that they wanted us to do them. And we said, no, we're going to do Without You. And we're going to do our radio version. We did it. And it was the first top 10 hit that we had from the album, Without Brilliant. You.
Let's play.
Up in the morning, catching the early ride, rubbing the eyes black and cold inside. Down in the world where everything's out of sight, I'm never without you. I'm never without you. You talk of the times you had no shoes to wear, a young old man with only a dream to share. Escaping each day, you run down the stair. But where did you go to? But I'll never without you. But I'm gone. I'm moving on. People change, they always do. But me, I'm never without you. I'm never without you. You took me down to the riverside. You're wrapping us up, keeping the fire high. Talking of life under a starry sky. But where did you go to? But I'll never without you. But I'm gone. I'm moving on. People change, they always do. I'm never without you. I'm never without you. I'm never
Another great song. They're also catchy, Paul, but I can see why that was a hit.
No, we had great influences, you know, like you say, with the voices and stuff. And we were really influenced by those, you know, those great musical duos and the Beatles and the Simon and Garfunkels and everything. You know, we got a lot of inspiration from that stuff. So, yeah.
Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you so much for your time and for joining us. I know it's late over there. I know you're 8 hours ahead of us, but I really appreciate your time. And it's been great to talk about our dear friend as well today. And
absolutely,
some great stories. You know, he's always with us. He's always with us forever.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
It's been thanks very much, Joe. It's been a great pleasure for me, mate. Having me on your show. I wish you every success with it, and I'm looking forward to listening to it. Yeah.
Appreciate
very
it,
much so.
Thanks a lot, Paul.
Yeah, you take great care, mate, and love
too.
to all the family, and we'll, hopefully we'll catch, we'll catch each other up face to face and share some more stories about the old Mr. Clayburn.
Absolutely. Love to the family. Thank you, Paul.
Take care, mate.
You
All
too.
the best.
Paul Dwyer, everybody.